going to have now some inspiring music from Kathleen Fogarty and Maestro.
There is a light beyond the sun. We are going, we are going. There is a light beyond the sun, and we are going home. There is a love beyond all knowing. We are going, we are going. There is a love beyond all knowing, and we are going home. And love is the only power. We are growing, we are growing. And love's the only power, and we're grounded by the light. And our lives are a mystery. We are growing, we are growing. And our lives are a mystery, and we are going home. And the trees hold our history. We are growing, we are growing. And the trees hold our history, and we're grounded by the light. And the stars serve as witness to our going. Yes, we are going. And the stars serve as witness, and we are going home. There is a light beyond the sun. We are going, yes, we are going. There is a light beyond the sun, and we are going home.
Yay, Kathleen, thank you. So I'm supposed to be welcoming the speaker here. I'm very happy to do that. John Wilson has been a longtime friend of mine, almost 40 years as I count it. And we were in a couple of different skits right here in this very same building, and also in the same building, thanks to John Wilson. It is, has now a good foundation, because he put a lot of sweat and nails and wood into this building, and he did a great job. We're all really happy about that. I also recall in the 1980s sharing a couple of different dance moves in some of our parties, just to exchange some fun stuff. About 2 weeks ago, I asked John if he would like to have anything special for this introduction, anybody that he would also even like to introduce him, and mentioned a couple of other things, and he wrote back to me, "Okay." We have laughed many times, we have worked together out pounding nails, and I remember John also strumming the guitar, singing and entertaining, and his light was shining. He is a good brother and an inspiring person. And I wanted to also say just something in honor of the earth and gardening, because after the construction hat, this man wears many hats, then he went on and became Farmer John, and he knows quite a bit about being a steward for Mother Earth. Here from Cicero from the 1st century: if you have a garden in your library, everything will be complete. And then from Rudyard Kipling, he said, "Gardens are not made by singing, 'Oh, how beautiful,' and sitting in the shade." So, my friend, John Wilson, you guys You've been sitting in the shade far enough. Come on up. Thank you.
Turn my mask into a pretty little, needs to be a different color, doesn't it? Well, greetings, beloveds. You are all beloveds, and I have it on good authority that there are many souls, beings of light, and angels around the planet, and each one of you sending you greetings as well. We should remember in our prayer times to send them back blessings as well, and those who've gone on before. So blessings to you all. I'd like to say just a moment before I start my talk, to keep people in mind of gardens and gardening and food and the earth. What we've been doing, we've built probably 50 raised bed gardens for people around town this year because of the pandemic. Either people are afraid or bored, maybe both. That's been fun. We've got fall crops all in. We've got leeks and garlic still coming to plant. There's always something new to plant, something to take out. It's always cycling. And I still love it. So, I also love trees. I have a newfound love of trees, actually. Because I also write for the Princeton Independent News, I have written 2 articles on trees and found out a lot I didn't know. I love trees. I love sitting under a shade tree. I love walking through the woods. In fact, I spent half of my childhood in trees. And as a carpenter, I like making things with the wood from trees, remembering to plant more trees and support organizations who protect forests and trees. Now, the oldest tree I know about is a sequoia in the Northwest. This thing is 5,000 years old. 5,000 years old. Hard to believe. It's a gnarly looking old thing. It may not be so beautiful as some of the younger sequoias, but 5,000 years, imagine. That tree in its way of perceiving has seen or shared the planet with Buddha, Muhammad, Lao Tzu, Jesus, Joan of Arc, Julian of Norwich, and more recently, Charlie Brown. That tree has felt the tectonic plates move under its roots in 5,000 years. It has watched mighty civilizations come and then go crashing down. It has weathered droughts and violent storms, and it has grown during periods of perfect rain and sunshine. And importantly, it has established a vast underground network of friends and neighbors invisible to the naked eye. The symbiotic relationships which are created underground are now well studied. Those relationships of giving and receiving through this collaborative community of fungal hyphae tubes is remarkable and can go on over many miles when left undisturbed. There's a study still ongoing of a sort of a valley that is 30 miles across, which has one web of underground fungal life. The whole valley, the trees are in communication with one another. And that fungal network makes up a large percentage of the mass of the soil. It's almost just a big mass of fungus. The trees feed each other over long distances, sharing food and water and information, becoming one forest being, and yet each stands in its own spot. Pondering this thought, I once awoke from a nap. It's the privilege of the elderly. Well, I'm not elderly yet, but I'm getting there. So I woke from a nap, feeling myself. As soon as I woke up, I just felt this. I was tethered to the atmosphere by my lungs and my breath. You know, we're one, just the trees one with all of the soil and the atmosphere. So what I felt then is it was actually that I was there to breathe CO2 for the tree. And I was tethered to the atmosphere. We so often just think, oh, the trees are there so we can breathe oxygen. It was reversed as I was waking up from that. And we have recently moved, and just before the beginning of looking for a place, I had a dream. I've had a lot of dreams. Dreams are very important. Don't forget to keep recording your dreams and think about them. In the dream, I was being shown in the woods. There was a stream, and it was all woods. And the foundation and all the parts, the sections of this bridge were already prepared and built. And it was just ready to be put together. And then there was already a path established on the other side of this stream. And while there is a practical aspect always of life, we're looking for places, but I had a feeling that we didn't have to look real hard, because the reason I thought it had to do with our place, our home, the only thing that had to do with where we were living then that was in the dream, our closet with our clothes hanging in it, were in the dream, just the closet exposed to this whole scene. And an animal doesn't have any, just not one that exists that I know of, came over from the other side and smelled our clothes and then looked at us and then scampered back off to the other side. Like another little, yep, okay. So we did what a friend of ours calls activating your networks. So I didn't go out and look at apartments, I just asked people I knew, do you know a place? And a friend, I could tell she connected with what I was saying and was thinking. She said, it's kind of humming. And a few days later she called and said, there's a place 3 doors down from me that's opening up right now. We ended up in that place without a lot of struggle, actually. And it's hard to find places right now. And where we are is in a cul-de-sac, but also backed up to 80 acres of woods. Even though it's townhouses and there's a lot of people, we're backed up to the woods. We're right there. And that is a connection to the dream also. And then we also have, right there we have 4 pine trees in a semicircle right behind our place. And they're pretty big, and when you look up, it just feels like they're looking at us and saying, we're glad you're here, or whatever they're saying in their own way. And because it's an undisturbed forest and won't be disturbed for many years, it's a protected area. We know they have that fungal hyphae network going on. They're all connected back there. Now, the story of this ancient sequoia reminds me also of the biblical tree of life. Trees are in a lot of stories and a lot of sacred symbology. It also makes me think of Jesus' words in John 14, verse 5. I am the vine and you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. It's from the New International Bible. And I think that's important. Then there's the story of the man with a fig tree. That fig tree did not bear fruit. This is Luke 13, verse 69. When he told the gardener to cut it down, I can relate to this, I'm a gardener. The gardener said, let me cultivate it and give it some food. Give it one more year. I would do that. Now, don't we all feel like our spiritual lives, as a symbol of this, can use a little more time? A little reboot now and then? And what would it look like? It's good to ask yourself to cultivate and feed your soul, to give it a little more, to produce figs. And my personal favorite, I could talk all day about cultivating and feeding the soil and the plants for real, but this is about the soul today. My favorite practice of cultivation and feeding in the spiritual sense is to read, especially early in the morning. I'm an early riser, good farmer spirit, I like to read short pieces of inspiring words from a variety of sources. I meditate on those words and do the breathing and do the whole thing. I think meditation is really important. It connects me to the trees and to the atmosphere as well. So meditate on those words and then where it takes me. And then also pray for others. I really think it's important that giving out, giving back. And I felt things happen sometimes when I've done that. Like I know somebody got something. Sometimes I feel like, as we all do, we're just in our and trying to meditate. And now in this time of unrest, we can all acknowledge that there's much unrest. How can we make use of the lessons of the tree and the biblical parables? We are challenged today by fears and threats of many kinds. The ever-increasing news of climate change, floods in the east, fire in the west, polar ice melts, submerging parts of the planet. Groups of people showing up here and there like small armies with guns and flak jackets. Not to mention a pandemic, a global pandemic, lurking ever near, maybe as near as your neighbor. We have a political landscape of bitterness and division. But worst of all, we have shortages of toilet paper. I actually think that's over now. And don't forget, toilet paper comes from trees. Thank those trees. Of course, if we run out of food, we won't need the toilet paper, but we won't talk about that. We have worldwide anxiety at a very high level. So where do we find our security and our safety? Well, I love some of the words of Jesus. He said, don't worry about your food or clothing. I'm not quoting exactly there, but... And he also said, at another place, I have food you know not of. And I think of that in several ways, one being spiritual food, but also he just was sustained. And we may come to that place. In the past, each of us could readily hide our fears and anxieties. Some with entertainment, some with more drink, some by making more money. We could fill our heads with another layer of mental activity, creating ever more constructs of reality in whatever direction you want. One of my mentors called this a stuffed attic. Sometimes we must lose our minds a little to discover our divine minds. And as these loopholes, diversions, and escape hatches close, the narrow path appears for us to choose if we wish. That path ultimately will open wide again in a new reality, in a new world. And that path, that narrow path, is poised between mind and emotion. The overfull mind filled with its thinking is like that overstuffed attic, heavy with its own importance. The spirit will be stifled there. No room at the inn. The unrestrained emotions are like being in a turbulent sea. The message of the Spirit scattered with each wave, with no place to rest or gain purchase. Remember, the Spirit speaks as the still, small voice. The pilgrim on the path is to be poised between mind and heart in an inner stillness. And like the tree, connected to others, invisibly, without being engulfed by too much or too many. Now, the need for connections with others is clear. Where two or more are gathered, we build that mystical body of the Christ together. It's important. When uniformity of thought is required or permissions needed for behavior, again the Spirit will be stifled. And it is also to have enough, yet not fearful of lack or want of more. Security is not found in money or things, many thoughts, big emotions or large crowds. It is found within. Where's the kingdom of heaven? The kingdom of heaven is within you, says Jesus. I myself have experienced glimpses of this living Spirit at times. I have many beautiful stories that have filled me. I consider it the spiritual food that we need. And I've had these glimpses enough so that I now want to stay on this path as one of the expectant ones. Now, this path also needs your intention and your attention to seek more, to seek the more of life which the Spirit offers. Not seeking a fixed point or clear object, but seeking the open door of love. And this is the pearl of great price. So be like the trees. Rise up. Wake up, support one another, and reach to the sun. Thank you.